as well, we were able, with the partnership that we have, even from the first line of defense, be it in the gateways, from Ittisalat and Do and many of our service providers, all the way to the hyperscalers that we have, to the data that we actually save there. And alhamdulillah, we're able to work together with our partner to achieve a great resiliency in that perspective. There was as well some data breaches, and I'm sure you can hear and see if you go into that darknet, some of those data breaches that happened there. And the cost of such data breach and leak is about 4.5 million in the average for any of those medium agencies or entities. We suffer a lot from such data breaches, and I'm sure everybody suffers in that perspective, because again, it's a privacy of data, it's information that we need to actually protect it. It's a trust that we are giving to us in that aspects to really make sure those are aligned with our basically compliances and standards in that. Security is not a responsibility of one entity, security is a responsibility of everybody today. And they are actually, as a matter of fact, our first line of defense. And they're the one who actually suffers the most whenever such things happen, from a reputational perspective or even from a technological perspective. And this is where the data protection as Comvault came in the pictures, as well as helping many of those aspects, really helping and really securing that ecosystem.
It's really a pleasure to be here, and I can see all the stuff that's been said. I don't have anything else to add. So I'm going to go a little bit of a different direction. So first of all, everything I'm going to tell you, I'm going to talk about, everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. So I'm not going to give you something new. But what I hope is that you will see a different perspective of looking at data. Okay? And absolutely no technical. So today I do advising work and advise mainly boards of directors and CEOs and so on. So I have to speak the business language. And it is very important when it comes to data to look at it a little bit from a business perspective. And all this start first. So not too many slides. I will basically talk about how important is data. I told you, you know about it, right? But we'll come to a bit of a challenging thing here. What problems and issues and shortcomings of data are there? And then future role of data. What role will data play in your organization in the future? Right, so let's start. And by the way, I love to use quotes, because quotes basically give you one kind of a wisdom. Somebody said something about a topic. I start using quotes when I look for somebody comes to me about something. I go and search for quotes. I've been doing this for the past 10 years. Unfortunately, when I got married, I couldn't see any quotes. But later I found one. And it said the best decision, about getting married is not to get married. To be happily married is not to get married. So since then, I believe that very much. I'm sure everybody agrees here, right? So I just started several quotes here. So it says, the first one says, you can have data without information, but you cannot have information without data. It's very important to think about that, right? Yeah, you can have, if you want, basically information, it means meaningful data, right? It informs me about something. So if I don't have data, there is no way I get information, right? So the second one says data is a precious thing and will last longer than the systems themselves. And I say this because I have seen this in real life. Anytime you implement, and all of you will go through cycles of implementing new systems, new things, right? Look at the part that says data cleansing, data migration, and data conversion and all these. That data lives before you, probably was there before you joined. Before that system was available, you change the system, the data will always remain there. So data for organizations is quite important. Let me ask a question. Everybody knows data is important, right? But why data is important? We all talk about data just like You know, when it comes to organizations, they say human capital. So once I was giving my objectives for the department, and I said, I am from the information capital department. And my CEO gave me this look. When did you change the name of your department? I said, because it's the capital for the organization. And without data, really you can't get anything. So data is important simply because with data, you can solve problems. With data, you can improve processes. With data, you can analyze. Now, I'm assuming you have the right data, you have the timely data, right? And you have relevant data. But without data, you can't do anything. Everybody agrees on that, right? Nobody disagrees. If anybody disagrees, please raise your hand. Now, but the real question I want to ask here is how important is data in your organization? We all know it is important. We all say it, but how important? You saw talk about security. It's important, right? An organization says, for me, market share is very important. You can see then what they are doing about gaining the market share they need. When it comes to data, I will share a story here, my first story. I was doing some advisory work for an organization in Abu Dhabi. They were going through merger. So I was there, so because there is a merger, they wanted to unify the IT departments. So what I did, I don't bring a framework or something and say use this. I actually sit with the people. So I had a workshop where I got the top IT guys and even some of the top business guys, sales and marketing, finance, HR, and so on. And we started looking, starting defining the role of IT, right? One thing I wanted to say here, because I was an advisor, there was a big advantage. You know, as an advisor, you actually learn a lot of things, and I learned something here. That's what gave me a paradigm shift of looking at data, and it will come, you'll see why. The beauty is, as an advisor, you learn a lot of things for organizations. I will not say for free, they actually pay you. So what do you want, you know? You are an advisor, and you get paid, and you learn new things. And here about this workshop particularly, you will see how this data, how my view on data changed. Now, we had this workshop, we started the role of IT, define what is the role of IT and so on. Then we came saying, okay, what is the output of IT, right? Remember, there are a lot of business people there. What is it that IT is giving to the business, right? In a nutshell, you're giving basically applications, whatever type of applications, right? All the infrastructure, the other part is your headache. They're enablers, but you provide that. Then, as we start talking, somebody, you know, what these applications work on. All the applications work on data. Whether it's a transaction, whether you're acquiring data, whether you're doing analytics, whatever, it all depends on data, whether it's data entry. So without data, no application can do anything for you. So they all agree data is important and so on. Then we came and looked at the KPIs. And we looked at both organizations, both ITs, what are the KPIs? And I have a lot of CIOs here. Normal KPIs, system availability, security incidents, my SLAs, and so on, right? One of the business guys, this is where I learned. He said, you know, for us, we just said data is most important. Where are the KPIs of your data? When you say data is important, I haven't seen, now to be fair, I have seen data-related KPIs from security perspective, right? That's to secure the data. But from business perspective, no KPIs. I was a CIO for over 20 years. I admit, I never had a KPI on data. Data quality, data enablement, data completeness, I didn't have anything. So for me, this was a different way of looking at business, right? And I say, and why I say this, it's combined with whenever I see a CEO or a board member, you know what they tell me, an executive, I'm sure all of you will hear that. They say, we don't get enough data to make decisions. I'm not getting what I want, right? So naturally, I mentioned market share. Market share will be a KPI for the organization, for the marketing guy or for sales guy, whatever. But data, I haven't seen anywhere. I haven't seen, there might be, I haven't seen from the perspective of business value, not from the security or regulation perspective. Okay, I'm just trying, cautious of time. By the way, my problem is when I'm at home, I don't talk at all. When I'm somewhere, I don't stop talking. So it's good I have a clock here. Okay. Sorry? It's all. Yeah. Seems like you use a lot of analytics. So problems and issues, and I want to say shortcomings of data. Okay, and I go very quickly, and you will notice I'm not really talking about anything technical here. My conclusion is very simple. It's caused due to lack of data governance and data strategy. And I'll come to these two. I'm not here to talk about data governance, but I will, and you know, there are a lot of definitions. I like this definition, that data governance deals with an effective framework for managing data policy, processes, data meaning, and relationship, and data management, and so on. And every organization has some sort of data governance, maybe formal, informal, but they have some sort of that. Might not be appropriate. My own view on this is that, yes, it's not as strong. Most of the organizations don't have very much, except when regulation comes or any, if they want to have certifications of ISO or whatever, they start doing some parts like data classification and so on. But that's not really the biggest one. The biggest one is this one. And data strategy is basically focuses on how the organization will use data to generate value. It answers the question of what the company will do with the data to be more successful. I haven't seen, in the organization I worked, I didn't have a data strategy. I have to admit, I did not know. So if you really don't have a strategy, then how are you going to define what data you need, right? And certainly if you don't define what data you need, how are you going to define where this data can help your business achieve its objectives? Go back to the role of IT. You say, I'm an enabler, I'm a helper, I'm whatever. But then where are you helping business make right decisions, timely decisions, or interrupt at the right time if something is, interfere at the right time if something is going wrong? Where are you doing this? So the absence of that is really the biggest challenge. And I'll go through some of the common problems with data, okay? One simple one is quality issues. When I say quality issues, talking about you must have a lot of duplicated data. You must have a lot of formats of data that are not right format, a lot of multiple entries, and so on. So these problems with data are everywhere. And I want to go back when I say how important it is that we don't pay attention to this. We take this for, it's okay to have some problems. It's okay, it's the wrong data entry. It's the wrong, the person was not trained. So all these combined problems will probably affect your business quite a lot. The second one, I want to even give an example on that one, integrity and master data. Master data, every organization I have seen has problems with master data. And when I say integrity, I'm referring to trust here. Let me give an example. I did some work recently, this was a year and a half ago. It was during, a little bit middle of COVID, but not at the peak of COVID. So I had a 4 months assignment with one of the companies, and when I joined them, they suddenly in 3 days they come to me with a form that I have to fill to get me the access card to enter the premises, right? And so did I fill. I'm very particular about why I need to give the data twice. So I give it them once, why I need to do it twice. So they created the card. I always enter and so on. After I finished my 4 months, in a week's time, I went back to them, and the guy told me, I'll arrange a gate pass for you. I told him, you don't need to arrange a gate pass, I will come there. So I went there, and I used the card, and it worked. Why it worked? Because the system, the security system, has its own master data. Your HR system, at that time they had an Oracle system, has its own master data, right? Master data means you should have one master data for anything. And this is a huge problem everywhere. And even today, when I deal with some of the even government services, I suffer from multiple master data. Okay, and that is a key problem, because it goes with the next one, the integration as well. Because if you don't integrate, let's say employee master, you should have one employee master. You cannot have multiple employee master. You should have one customer data. You cannot say, okay, I'm going to implement a CRM, So I'm going to create another customer data on my CRM system, and I have something on my ERP system. So this is a very common problem. I'm cautious of time here, but I promise you I will finish on time, inshallah. Relevancy. Many places, there is a lot of information that's not relevant. It's not needed. I came across an example last week. One of my friends, his bank account or his card, ATM card, he got a message that's blocked because he's not updated his credentials. You know, your Emirates ID and so on. So he said, Ahmed, can you help me? I was actually praying at the mosque. I said, fine. You know, he knows I'm an IT guy. So I went with him, and they gave a link, and he was worried the link is safe or not, and so on. So I told him it is safe, it's okay. So we went to the link. We start filling. Now, what do you need to update? You need to send a copy of your, new passport or whatever, or Emirates ID. So I started with questions that are totally irrelevant. How many checks do you issue per week? How many money transfer you make, how much of amount you transfer between different accounts, and how much of them are, now, regardless of the question being irrelevant, it says questions like how many countries do you transfer money to? And if you say 0, it doesn't accept. You have to put at least 1, right? So I'm really serious, I'm not joking. So things like this, it really kills you. Now, today it might not be a problem. When we come to the last slide, as you move digital, your customer will suffer quite a lot. And another thing, very quickly I will go, is validity and update. Many of the data you get is either old data or not updated. And that is a no-no. In the older days, fine, people were not, but today, it's not acceptable. Right? Some more, right? Completeness. When I say completeness, I mean, if you give me information, give me a complete information. Somebody comes to me and it says, there is a land for sale. It's 40,000 or 400,000 square feet, or 40,000 square feet, or whatever. Right? Is that complete information? I need the dimensions. Is it a square or is it 4 by 4,000? So give me the information I need. I'm talking here without the business context, but many of the information are not complete, and especially for your customers. And that, I found that quite common. Definitions and data dictionary. This is another problem. You see data and you don't know what it means. I'll give you an example, employee turnover, right? And I was in the executive committee, I was seeing, or employee number. Once I was in the executive committee, we had an update from finance. It gave us a total number of employees, a certain number. When HR gave, the number was different. From the same system, right? You know why it was different? Because finance says, I count the number of employees as my payroll date, which runs on 26th or 27th of the month. While HR says, no, I take it as the last day of the month. So if I see a number as a CEO, which one should I believe? Things like this, you need to define the meaning of the data. A lot of data that is there, people don't know what it means. So the right way is to create a data dictionary, not for all of your data, but at least for the key data. So people understand what they mean, right? External data. I mentioned CEOs quite often say, I don't have enough information to make decisions. Most of the decisions, and take this from me, that happens at board, at CEO, at executive level, the strategic decisions require a lot of external data. External, timely data. Unfortunately, most organizations don't provide that. You have either historical data, which doesn't help me to make decisions, right? So that also is missing, and it's not difficult. Today you can get these information. They're all available. Either you pay something or sometimes even it's for free. Data protection, a lot was talked about data protection. That is another big problem, especially when it comes to security, backup and recovery. Huge problems. And I think everybody knows, do a lot of backups, but how many times you do drills to come and try to do restore and so on, right? So these are the common problems. Now, this is a slide I want to spend a few minutes on it. So you could see now all the problems I mentioned don't have to be there. Don't have to be there, right? Now I want to share with you one incident that I had, which will make every one of you laugh. But I swear this was a real incident. Once I went to Cape Town. I met somebody from South Africa here. I went to Cape Town, and when I checked in the hotel, I checked in, they gave me the room number. I went very happily to the room, carrying my suitcase. I enter the room, and I see there is a suitcase on the bed, and it's open, and it looks like to be a lady, because I could see from the dresses, right? And luckily, I swear to God, luckily, she was in the bathroom taking a shower or something like this. So I just got scared and went out, Went down, and I told them this, oh, we are sorry. And then, now, I come from a programming background, okay? I'm an IT, I'm analytical. I just see, I just couldn't understand how something like this happens. This was 2010, right? I'm not talking in the 70s or 80s, right? 2010. I just called the manager. I said, how can something like this happen? I just can't believe it. How can it happen? There is something wrong, right? So things like this could affect quite a lot of things. One more thing that I see very funny, all of you have come across this. I'm very peculiar about this, right? I have come to many sites where they ask you, you apply to membership, they ask you your date of birth, right? And after that, you see, they ask you your age. So one day, what I did, this was not a long time ago. I put my date of birth, this was like 8-9 months ago, and I put my age 16, okay? What was in my mind as IT guy? I just want to know, which one is that the one they are using? Are they asking these two to verify that I'm putting the right date of birth or something? But I didn't get any message. Are they going to use the 16 or are they going to use my real date of birth? So contents of data and all these are things that really we need to be careful about. And all of the problems I mentioned, they are avoidable. If I have the right data governance and I have the right data strategy, they're all avoidable. Now coming to the future role of data, and I think we saw a lot of things here that's very important. In the old days, they used to use really many frames or something, one system on premise and so on. All your data is there. Moving forward, your data will not be in one place. It will cloud. That is whether you like it or you don't like it, it's going to go that direction. So you can imagine how you're going to make sure that you manage your full data across multiple platforms. And you want this data to be trusted, you want this integration, you want to have one master data, you want to have data updated, you have to have a lot of things. You can imagine how difficult that will be. Okay, and especially for your customer, which is the next one, customer expectation. Customer expect today a lot of things. Let me give an example. Assume I'm going on a trip. I go to Emirates Airline site and I start, putting details of myself, whoever, whatever tickets I did, and suddenly something goes wrong, right? And I want to come back and I don't see anything. I have to repeat. What do I feel? I feel very bad, right? Why do I have to enter all these again? Today, there are ways, there are solutions that will make sure that at least, maybe you don't recover 100%, but at least it will be as up to date as possible. Huh? Yeah, maybe that's true as well. Yeah, but I'm saying as a customer today, I'm expecting with all technology things to be there. So you need to pay more attention to data. Business impact. Everybody said we're going to digital, right? If you don't really get your acts right, somebody said SOL, right? So you'll get a lot of SOLs, right? I don't know what, save our lives, something. But you really need to, because your competitor will do better than you. So you better make sure that you have proper data for your customer, for everyone, right? Emerging technologies. Now, a lot of technologies are coming. Metaverse, ChatGPT, AI, and so on. All of them, without exception, depends on your data. One of my friends sent me I actually told Yahya this, he did a search on ChatGPT on Ahmed al-Mullah, right? And it showed him somehow that I was the Chief Information Security Officer at DIWA. I never worked at DIWA, okay? And so it's CISO. And interestingly enough, the picture is my picture. So even ChatGPT, it needs proper data. Now, when you start providing AI solutions and all this to your customers, you better make sure you get your acts right, your data right. Otherwise, what will I feel? If I go to a site and I want to book a ticket from Dubai to San Francisco, and one of the airlines, whatever, right? And it tells me, yes, this flight is available, the duration is 6 hours. I know it's not 6 hours. I know it will take 16 hours, 15 hours. Do you think I will ever come back to this site and do business? No, right? So things like this make a big difference. Enoch, you have the yes application, right? If I start doing things and I find things, wrong or something, I'll stop using it. But in the real world, in the digital world, you have competitors. Last but not least, security. I think I intentionally didn't talk a lot about security, but let's say data protection in general is becoming even more vital. Dr. Al-Kuwaiti gave an example of a ransomware attack, right? He didn't mention the words that I would like to mention. The bank he talked about must have had a very good business continuity plan. They must have had a good disaster recovery plan. In the time frame that he talked about, only 3 hours. But most of the ones I have seen, they don't have. Most of them don't have really a proper, BCP or DRP. Unfortunately, that is critical. So you really, today, moving forward, you need to make sure, if you want to operate in the digital world, you really need to get all these right. So that's basically, and I want to end it with a simple quote. It says, it's not about marriage, okay? Come on. Let's look forward, guys. Where there is data smoke, there is business fire. I really like particularly here, because it is really true. It's really true. The importance of data is really vital. So you really need to look at this. When they introduced me, they talked about my book, right? I wrote a book on digital governance, but I'm writing another book, and it's called Data Ache. You have a stomach ache, headache, there is something called data ache. So I hope nobody uses that, it's copyrighted. So, but honestly, this is where, so everything I said, I don't think you guys don't know. I think everybody knows. But I think it's really time to look at data differently. And this I learned from what I do as an advisor. I learned from a lot of people. But honestly, today, data is your main asset. After people, because I don't want to fight with the HR guy, he can fire me. But people, and I think there was a lot of talk, Ranjit mentioned about skills and talent. So skills and talent is always the top, I 100% believe that. After that, I think data is the most important asset for organizations. So with that, I'm sorry I took about 1.5 minutes more. So thank you very much, guys.